China actually, one could say, was a pioneer in sort of getting economic security off the ground. Of course, the Communist Party as a Communist Party has always been autarky focused. There has been a bit of a shift between 1978 and the 2000s, where there was a larger focus on sort of economic growth. But especially since Xi Jinping took office in 2013, China has really reinforced the elements in its constitution and also in its policies that are about economic security, and especially about making sure that China is prepared for any kind of situation that might occur, and that they are able to preserve their own security in a very sort of widely defined manner. That means that they don't want to be dependent on any goods or any trade flows, for instance. They want to be able to ensure that they have enough food to feed their own population, even in a case that maybe the US would, for instance, conduct a blockade within the Strait of Taiwan. China has really been planning on making sure that dependencies are decreased forever. But private money, like venture capital investments, would usually go to sectors that the government doesn't really like, especially internet-enabled sectors, software sectors. Since 2018, 2019, however, the government has been successful in really setting incentives in such a way that private companies like investment funds are now actually investing in government priorities. And we can see this when we look at venture capital investments, for instance, that have now gone to semiconductors a lot more than before. And semiconductors is actually a terrible venture capital investment target usually, because it's so capital intensive and it can take up to 10 or 15 years to even find out if you'll be successful or not. China has, in the last 5 to 10 years, really worked systematically on eradicating dependencies and also making sure that other countries, like Europe, will have dependencies on China. So the idea of becoming dominant in rare earth, as we have seen in recent months and years, is actually an idea that was mentioned by Deng Xiaoping in the 1990s. And they have now achieved this, and they could really derail European rearmament with these rare earth export controls. I think currently the EU actually still has a lot of cards, but what they don't have is credibility. And what Europe would need to do in order to change this is to really showcase a credible deterrence and to showcase that they are comfortable with using some of the instruments that have been built up, like the anti-coercion instrument, like trade protection instruments that have been built up in recent years. And this is where Europe hasn't, at this point, really credibly demonstrated that they are willing to do that.